Good morning, and quick Millionaire by 50. Today is Wednesday, August 12th. I want to talk about a little experience that happened yesterday, which had me reflecting on past experiences too. We, as people, tend to want to rely on our expertise, which you should. When you know something, you know something. And I do mean actually know something, actual knowledgeable facts, not just opinions. And I think I know something, but I really don't. And I'm going to act like I do. And that just leads to disaster, as we can often see. Um, so, the actual story uh, for a few days, my brake pads had started to make a grinding noise, which indicates that, hey, they're down to the wire. It's time to change them. And I've done brake jobs before, about a dozen times. It's not really hard. I mean, take off the wheel, take off the calipers and shoes, trade the pads, trade the rotors, rebuild, boom. It's about an hour long job to do both front wheels. Um, and it's a skill I've acquired because A, instead of paying 400 bucks at the mechanics to have this done, it cost me about $100 in wholesale parts, and I can do it myself. So I wound up saving about $300 for an hour's worth of labor. That's worthwhile. You know, if it took an hour's worth of labor to save $5, I'd go see a professional. But in this case, it was worthwhile. And so I do the first wheel, no problem. It's passenger side. Then I get to the driver's side, and the rotor was basically fused on. Everything else came apart easy, but I had to get that rotor off before I could put the new one on, and it was stuck. I was banging away at it, spraying it with lubricants, heating it up with a blowtorch to soften and get the rust to flake off for hours. I mean, even neighbors on both sides came to see what's going on and to help. And I kid you not, work at it so long that you notice you've been working at this thing for 4 hours. And even after 4 hours, it is stuck. At one point, it's like it's time to admit defeat and call in the big guns. So I call my mechanic and I explain the situation. And he says, "Yeah, bring them down." So I reassemble the rest of the wheel. I put the new pads on the old rotor. Didn't have to go very far, so it's not like it's going to damage the new pads or anything. I go to see him and I explained everything I did. And he says, "Sometimes you got to have the right tools." And I said, "Well, we have a sledgehammer," because he pulls out a sledgehammer. He goes, "Yeah, but you don't have a lift." Because at this point, he's lifted the car way up there. And he can get under the car and get a nice swing and to hit the rotor from behind to pop it. All I had was a little stand, and I could only hit it from the front and hope to shake the rust loose. Whack, 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 whack. 6 hits, rotor pops off. So, in about 20 seconds, he was able to do what we couldn't do in 4 hours because we didn't have the right resources. So, that got me thinking, you want to do everything yourself. You want to trust your knowledge in doing everything yourself. It doesn't mean you're always able to. By that I mean you're not always able to by yourself. You have resources around you. You have people who have resources around you. Don't be afraid to use them. Okay? They're there for a reason. Now, obviously, sometimes you have to pay for those resources, but you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? For example, we started dabbling in the stock market, and on the rule1.com, um, there's an incredible resource that does a whole bunch of stock analysis for you. Pretty much gives you a detailed history of everything. So you don't have to go dig in the research, it's there. I'm going to pay 40 bucks a month to have access to this, but you know what? 40 bucks a month to give me information at fingertips rather than have to spend hours digging around hoping I found the right situation. That's totally worthwhile. It's a resource. Don't be afraid to use them. And also, even though you may be knowledgeable about something, don't be afraid to call on the expertise of others. There's a reason they're the experts. There's a reason they're highly successful at something. Um, you know, I always thought I knew how to handle money, knew how to make money, but it's been my life. Well, right now there's so much debt to dig out of. It's like, well, pay the bills and whatever's left, scrape by to live with. And it was like that for a decade. Until finally my wife convinced me, and I know I should have thought of this earlier, I should have accepted earlier, but she convinced me to talk with a professional consultant who came in and reorganized our finances and separated the business from the personal and allocations of all sorts of stuff. And you know what? From a personal point of view, personal expenses point of view, it didn't really affect much. For paying the bills, it didn't affect much. But it also managed to square money aside for other things which couldn't do before, just by reorganizing because she was the expert. And frankly, if it weren't for that, I don't know that we would have been able to handle uh, the lockdown from COVID-19 as well as we did. Because we started doing this in October 2019. And in the 6-7 months that followed, we were able to um, save up, put aside. The money was earmarked for something else, obviously, but we had money there so that when we had to dip into our funds to help survive, we could. Had we not done that when the COVID hit, we would have been broke by mid-April. So trust the experts. They are there for a reason. Now, you see nowadays amid the pandemic, there's so many people who have opinions on what's going on, and masks this and vaccines that and blah blah blah. You know what? You're not an expert. Watching a YouTube video does not make you an expert. Doing your research doesn't mean I spent 2 minutes listening to someone who's not credited. You want to do your research, do medical journal researches, read the peer reviews on that, read their research, follow the arguments back and forth, make sure this is verified. Then, yeah, then you can trust those experts. Those are then you've done your research, I should say. So when I see like the head of the CDC or something like that being dismissed by crackpots, it's infuriating because these are people who spent decades of their lives studying this very thing and understanding the ins and outs. And I know I'm probably getting a little political here, but the same applies everywhere. You want money advice, don't talk to the guy who's poor, talk to the guy who's had success. Now, I know I'm kind of giving advice here, um, but I'm repeating the advice I got from the experts or giving you examples of real life changes I've experienced. So I'm not a millionaire yet, but I am on my way to becoming one. And then in hindsight, this will all look genius. But trust the experts. There's a reason they're experts, okay? On that note, let's talk gratitudes. I am grateful that my mechanic was able to resolve my stuck rotor issue. From then on, finishing the rest of the brake job took 5 minutes. Just slap the new one on, rebuild everything, put the wheel, we're done. It was great. I am grateful for some quality time I had with my daughter yesterday. That's always fun. I am grateful for the opportunities today will bring on yet another beautiful day. Anyways, we'll talk tomorrow.